just want to know. So again, I want to thank Sunshine for once again allowing me to be a part of one of their cohorts. And what I've always done in the past is really just talk about the basics of small business insurance, or just business insurance, period. But I really want to preface it with what's really going on right now and what has happened over just over the course of this pandemic. I mean, we've seen some instances where insurance has really come into play, and it's never been a time more than ever where I've seen more discussions about business insurance. My experience, and I've been in this business now, I've had my business now for 11 years, but I've been in the financial industry for about 20 years now. But my experience with people when it comes to finances and when it comes to insurance is we just don't know. We really don't know a whole lot of anything. And I don't mean to sound insulting, but I think something as important as insurance, and people say, well, that's because you're in the business. I'm like, no, I thought about insurance long before I got into the business. I thought about insurance when I was, buying my first car, and making sure that if I ran into the back of somebody or somebody ran into the back of me without insurance, that I had coverage. And as I was coming in this morning, I was thinking too, I was like, I think that, we tend to just get insurance as a means to get something else. Like, I'll have contractors coming to me that need insurance because they can't get their business license unless they have insurance. And I really don't think we put enough focus or enough emphasis or just concentration on what insurance can do for us. So this pandemic, I think, has taught a lot of business owners that they need to pay more attention to insurance. When you look around, and my office is in Chatham, and when I look around Chatham and I look at all the businesses that still have not reopened or that are not going to reopen, I look at the businesses that had, many issues of looting, where not only was their inventory stolen, but their businesses were damaged physically, and some of them are struggling too because they just didn't have the right type of insurance. So there's different stats across, and I don't know if you all shared anything in your training, but right now, about 64% of business, 65%, let's say, of businesses are not properly insured. 65, I'm sorry, there's another stat where, 74% of businesses don't have insurance. Of that 65% of them are underinsured. You get that?
Oh, that's a lot.
That's a huge amount. So that means that you got only 25% of businesses are actually insured or have the proper insurance. So this is why this really is important to pay attention. The first thing you want to do when you talk about insuring your business, when you talk about starting a business, you really want to look at what it would take to protect your business, what it would take to insure your business. And I think people start from the back and not from the front with that. What do I mean? I mean, if you're going to start a property preservation business or a security business, or you want to open up a gun shop, or you want to start a dance school, and what do all those have in common? I mean, there's certain types of specialized insurance or daycare for those particular businesses. You just can't go out and get any kind of insurance. You have to make sure that your business is insurable. And more times than not, I see people, putting so many different things together that you nearly make your business uninsurable, or you have to get such specialty insurance that the premiums are going to be just ridiculous. So look at that first. Look at your state and local requirements as it pertains to your business and the type of insurance that your specific business needs. I am an insurance and financial professional. So I help people with protecting their homes, their businesses. I also help people with retirement, financial planning, and investments. So what is the risk level for my type of business, and what are the state requirements for me and the type of business that I have? So look at what your specific business is that you have, and look at what the requirements are for that business. Even before you go out and get business cards, before you start marketing, before you start telling everybody what you're going to do, You need to have that stuff in place, because more times than not, people start operating a business and they don't even have the infrastructure. And part of your infrastructure, your business infrastructure, is insurance. So many states also require, depending on the type of business you have, that you'll have to have insurance for your vehicle, especially if you have some type of delivery service. You're going to have a special type of insurance for your vehicle as well. And you're going to have to carry at least $1 million in liability. And when I say liability, $1 million, people think, oh, that's a lot of money. It's not, and it's not expensive. But when you think about, if you get out there and you're driving your vehicle, let's say you're a florist shop and you run into somebody and that person gets killed, you know, you don't want to have those limits too low, because then you need to make sure that you have enough coverage so that your business doesn't go under, so that you don't have to sell your assets. So that a big part of your insurance is the liability. And what is liability? You'll hear the topic, the words general liability or GL, you know, but basically professional liability, E&O, those types of liability protect your businesses in different ways. General liability, a lot of times people refer to that as like the slip and fall type of coverage. Slip and fall, what does that mean? If someone comes into your place of business and they have, you know, they fall or slip or whatever, or something happens within the confines of the business, or liability can happen away from your business as well, but I'll talk about that later. Other parts to liability is not just about the slip and fall type of thing. You might have to have liability if you have a product. Like I have a client who has a sausage, a chicken sausage, and he has to carry liability insurance when he's one, doing demos at different grocery stores, but also he has to have liability for his products in there, and for anything that comes of it. If somebody gets sick, there's liability behind that if someone gets sick from eating his sausage. So liability is very important. And what is liability? Liability basically protects your assets. It protects your business assets. It protects you from a lawsuit if someone decides to sue you based on something that you may have done wrong as a business owner. So there's different types of liabilities though. There's, I did mention E&O, which is errors and omissions. Someone like myself, not only do I carry liability for my physical building or physical office, but I also carry a professional liability, which for me is E&O. For a doctor, it could be malpractice insurance. For an attorney, it's E&O. For different businesses, it's different things, but it's the same thing. It's like errors and omissions. It's when you, in a process of doing your business, you eliminate something or you forget something or you lie about something. It will protect the person that in a relationship with you for whatever reason, for your business purposes. It protects them from any errors that you may commit. It also, it protects you from any errors that you may commit. And E&O is not very difficult to get, but it is a requirement for specialized types of businesses. So even if you have a not-for-profit, you need some form of E&O insurance as well. And if you all have questions, because it's a lot of information about it, but if you have any questions, put them in the chat room for me, okay? So we covered general liability insurance, right? And as far as how much liability you should carry, most of the policies that I write start at $1 million. And again, like I said, that's not it sounds like a lot, but it's not a lot. One of the things I really think about when I think about liability, I think about like if there's a fire, or some of you may remember this or maybe not, but this was several years ago. A person was having a party, or there was a party in a building owned by this person. And I'm not sure, I can't remember if they actually lived in the building, but in that building, there were a bunch of people on the back porch, and the porch gave way, and some of those people died because the porch collapsed. Or maybe you all remember the E21, I used to call it Epitome 21, E21, the nightclub years ago they had a stampede of people I don't know if it was a fire or it was just somebody created some type of smoke or some type of, whatever it was. I think it was a fire, and they were all trying to get out. That's right, it was a fire. They were all trying to get out, And a lot of people died. A lot of people died from that. So that liability fell on the owners of that business, and they went through a lot of serious litigation over that. If you already recall that story, they had death lawsuits. They had a bunch of civil lawsuits, I should say. They had also had criminal lawsuits because of someone saying that, you know, that they were criminally liable for the deaths that were caused at that nightclub. So liability is very important. So the amount that you cover would, you know, if you think $1 million is a lot, $1 million was not a lot for that Epitome 21 place or E21 place. $1 million was not a lot for the people that fell off that Porsche. Matter of fact, they needed a lot more insurance. Not only should you have $1 million, you should have 5 million or 2 million, depending on what your exposure is. And that's another word that we use in insurance, is the exposure. You know, what type of business pursuits do you have? Are you likely to have someone to sue you for, you know, thousands of millions of dollars? I have a client that just came to me. He's starting a car rental for high-end vehicles like Lamborghinis and Maseratis. And, you know, if mechanically something goes wrong with one of those vehicles and someone dies as a result of it, he could be sued for millions and millions of dollars. A suit like that could put someone out of business. So you don't want to be stingy, or you don't want to be cheap with liability coverage. If to me, that is the most important part, the most important coverage of your business is protecting your liability, protecting your assets. Any questions? I need to open this up so I can see chat room. Are there any questions? No? Do you need insurance? This is from Mona. Do you need insurance for the products that you make? So like t-shirts, jewelry, cards. You need a couple of different types of insurance. If you're making a bulk amount of product, you need to protect your inventory. So the answer to that would be yes. You do need to have coverage for that. And that would be your business inventory, or you also need insurance for your equipment, your laptops, your computers, the same thing. If you have a restaurant, you need insurance for equipment. You need insurance for any fixtures, everything that you have in there. You need to be able to restore yourself back whole. Okay. Moving right along. You can scroll down a little bit for me. I'm gonna take a sip of some coffee while you do that. So what about real estate? That's Alicia Lewis. Yes. So what about real estate? And I'm assuming you want to know what kind of coverage do you need for real estate? For real estate, it depends on what type of setup you have. The main coverage that you're going to need for real estate would be your liability. And that, in your case, for real estate, it would be professional liability, which is, again, the same thing as E&O. So I work with a lot of realtors, and I've done a lot of policies for them. And the basis of their policies is simply, as a realtor, you're taking people from place to place. Some people are even driving people in their cars. I wouldn't recommend that. But you need to cover yourself in terms of, if, I don't know, I'm trying to think of what could happen with a realtor. But you do need to have E&O or professional liability being a realtor. If you have if you're a managing broker, if you're a broker and you have other realtors up underneath you, you should carry E&O for them as well, or professional liability for them as well. So, okay. Ooh, they're coming. Employer's liability. I'm not sure what you mean by employer's liability. Can you give me employer's liability? So you mean in terms of me being an employer, and that's part of your general liability policy. From youth organizations, you've heard, that's from Gigi, that's my nickname too, that you've heard a request from youth organizations. I'm not exactly sure what that is. But I mean, these are the things in terms of employer's liability. Thank you for pulling up that screen. Is that you have work comp, and that you have some type of unemployment insurance. But work comp is really key for a lot of businesses that have employees. And work comp simply is, and it's workers' comp, not workmen's comp. Remember that. Workers' compensation protects the business when someone gets hurt, and that's an employee that gets hurt. So maybe that's what you were referring to in terms of employer's liability. And every state requires, if you have employees that are working for you, that you carry workers' compensation. And this insurance, like I said, it protects against the loss of income resulted from some accident at work. Workers' comp, the premiums are set based upon the type of employee. So contractors, let's say a contractor's workers' comp policy or workers' comp insurance would be much more expensive than that be for a realtor or someone that is like a administrative assistant. The rates are based upon the type of work that person is doing. So of course, it's more likely that a contractor is going to have an accident. So therefore, the insurance is going to be higher. Oh, and the other thing with work comp too, it's also based on the loss ratios of that particular employer. So for instance, if that employer hasn't had any work comp claims, he can get some type of, I don't want to use another insurance term, he can get some type of adjustment based on the fact that he's not had any losses. So he would, same apples to apples with another insurance, another person, another contractor, one has a lot of claims, the other person doesn't. It's just like if you were buying car insurance or anything else, your premiums would be based upon whatever your loss history is. But work comp is very important to carry. If you are independent and you don't have, and it's just you, and you don't have work comp, and when you're like, for me, I don't carry work comp for myself. I carry disability insurance. And the reason why I chose that over work comp, because work comp is almost like suing yourself or going after your business. I decided to do disability insurance in the event that I can't work or I have an injury from work or just any type of debilitating situation where I cannot physically do my job. So I carry disability insurance. You can opt out of work comp if you are a one-person business. If you don't have employees, you don't really need to carry work comp. So let's see, Al asked, I missed that last question. Can you read that for me? Jason or someone?
Al T asked about the difference between general liability versus BOP insurance.
You mean business owner?
The difference between general liability versus BOP?
I think they're the same thing, except a business owner insurance entails more than just general liability. So I have business owners insurance, and BOP may be just an acronym for what that particular place calls it. I call it a BOP, business owner. Damn, I forgot all about what.
Policy. Can you go to your chat? Business owner policy.
Thank you. It stands for policy. Business owner policy is for someone like myself. I have a physical office. I have computers. I have equipment. It's just more comprehensive than just general liability. A BOP policy gives you coverage for not only, if you own the building, it'll give you coverage for the building. It could give you coverage for your business, personal property. It's just more comprehensive than general liability. General liability is for someone who may not need all of that. You may not need coverage for the building or windows or anything like that. It's just a more comprehensive policy. That's all what a BOP is. Okay, and then there was another question, Jason, that came before Al T. Did I answer your question, Al T?
Yes, you did. Thanks.
Okay. Okay.
One young lady was asking as it related to youth organizations. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So one young lady was asking, as far as youth organizations, what kind of coverage do they need to protect themselves from sexual abuse allegations, molestation allegations, and things like that?
Okay. So remember when I brought up earlier and I was making the distinction between, or I brought up about like a dance studio and with children, and then other different types of businesses. So when you're working with children, you're gonna have you really have to think about the insurance aspect of that, because when you're working with children, you're gonna have to carry all of that. You have to have the sexual molestation. That has to be a part of your whole package. But you also have to, in terms of kids are different than it would be if I were opening up a school for adults. If I was opening up a school for adults, sure, there's some things that you have to cover. But when you're working with children, you have to carry higher liability limits. You have to carry, actually, you need to have an umbrella coverage with that as well. And the reason because of that is because you have to protect those kids in all areas. And you have to make sure that there will be no chances or instances of something happening to those kids. So insurance companies, when you're looking at covering children or covering a business that has a children associated with them, you're looking at a lot more higher premiums. And that is because of the fact that you're working with children. So you're going to carry sexual molestation. You're going to have to carry harassment. You're going to have to carry general liability, of course. And just like LT was, if you carry the whole business, the BOP policy, you have to carry all of that with it, because again, you're working with kids and the potential for something happening is higher. It's just like a daycare. And those things are regulated too by the state as well too. When you're doing anything with children, you got to have certain types of certifications. I'm sure you already know that. And you got to have everything in place so that they can make sure that you, and your insurance, you can't let it lapse either. So they require that you have that insurance. So it has to be something that is registered with the state. So if that answers your question. All right. I'm sorry if I'm rambling a little bit. What is this lender investor required insurance?
I was just scrolling through. I don't know if you need to touch on that if nobody has a specific question about it.
Well, some banks require that you do, like, it depends. Like if you are, and I'm not sure if this is the same thing. I get it. Okay, key person. That is, if you are taking out some type of loan, if you are in partnership with someone else, a lot of banks will require you, your business banker will require some type of contingency in the event that something happens to one of you or both of you. And that contingency would be part of your business continuation plan. What's a business continuation plan? That is a plan in place that protects your business in the event that something catastrophic happens to one of the partners or one of the key people in that business. So for instance, right next door to me is a dental office. And in that dental office, you got 3 people that are practicing, and each of them covers a specific area. If one of them, let's say they took out a loan, a big giant loan with a bank or whatever, if one of them were to pass away, or if one of them were to become unable to work, permanently unable to work, that is going to change the complexity, or that is going to change the integrity of the business in terms of something is not going to be able to get done. And the business someone may be just coming to that business specifically for that one person. That person may be the big draw of that business. And as a result of losing them in whatever capacity, now that business is affected financially. So key person, long-term care, disability, those are all part of some of the lender requirements for that particular business. But key person is a big one. And what key person is essentially, it is a life policy that is owned by that business to protect that business in the event that a key person passes away. So, and it provides money to that business. It also provides money to any person outside that business, for instance, the wife or the spouse of that particular person. It keeps the integrity of the business intact in the event that something like that happens. Okay. So that's what the lender requested type of insurance will be key person. It's all a part of business continuation plan. And more times than not, I see a lot of businesses, especially businesses in partnership, where they don't think about this. They don't think about the what if type of situation. I mean, that's the world that I live in as an insurance agent, is what if someone that I depend on passes away? On a personal level, that life insurance will speak to that, but also on a business level, life insurance will speak to that. So you have a policy that the business takes out on individuals that play an integral part and keeping that business going. I'm doing key person policies on my assistant, my two assistants. Why would I do that? Because if I lost him, like one of my assistants was off for the last couple of days. So that's, I was going crazy. And of course she has a right to take a day out, but what if I lost her, unfortunately? It would take me time to get her. It took me several years to find someone with her capacity, with her aptitude. I mean, just everything about her is just, I mean, we work well together. If I lost her, it would definitely impact my business financially. So you get what I'm saying? Having a key person, so having insurance for her, or rather it's for the business. If I were to lose her, you know, personally, it would have an effect on me, but also financially would have an effect on me in terms of having to take the time to find someone to replace her. And anytime you go through that, and as business owners, you will learn when you have to, you know, set aside time to do things like that, it does impact your business financially. You know,
Gwen, did you see Ms. Lewis's question about insurance for home daycare / babysitting? And it looks like we got one from Crystal Marshall. She says so there's one from Alicia Lewis about general babysitting at home. And then there's a second question from Crystal Marshall saying that she rents houses and apartments. Can you discuss property insurance as well as other insurances that she needs to think about?
Okay, so we'll hit the daycare. So in-home daycare, it's two types for daycare. You can do in-home, and of course you can have a facility. In-home daycare is two options for that. It depends on how many children you have. If you have a full-blown daycare with, let's say, 8, 9, 10 children or something like that, you're gonna have to get a daycare liability policy. If you have maybe just 3 or 4 kids, some companies under your homeowner's insurance will allow you a daycare coverage, but it's only for a small amount of children. But if you have a full-blown daycare that you're running in your household, and I do have a client like that, she needs more coverage than that. And again, and I just want to say this: you can never have too much liability coverage. Okay, it would like her liability on her home, I have it at $1 million, which is the highest I can do it. Her liability on her daycare, I have it at $3 million, which is the highest that I could do it for that particular company that I was working with. And it wouldn't even be bad to have an umbrella policy with that as well. An umbrella is an extended liability coverage over your liability for your business as well as liability for personal, but those are two different types of umbrellas. Your personal umbrella, and then you have a commercial umbrella. So get as much liability as you can afford. And I think a lot of businesses take the cheap route when it comes to that, because they're not thinking of a what if type of situation. But it only takes one situation that could potentially put you out of business. If somebody's child is hurt or dies under my client's care, as a parent, that's my child, do you think I'm not going to, especially if it was some type of negligence, you don't think I'm going to pursue everything I can against that person, every action I can against them? Absolutely, and you would too. So get as much liability as you can afford. And it's not expensive. Umbrella policy is not that expensive for commercial or for personal. Liability on your underlying policies are not that expensive. We've been taught by really bad insurance people in the past, especially when it comes to our cars, especially when it comes to our homes. We've not been educated on how important liability is on the policy. It's more important than anything else. Remember that. If I don't say it enough, I am going to say it enough. Liability is the most important portion of your policy. But to the young lady with the properties and the rentals. So if you're renting properties, same thing. You're going to hear it's a broken record from me. You know, it's got to make sure you want to protect your property, first of all. So you want to make sure that you have whatever type of replacement costs or actual cash value, whatever it is that in terms of what the properties are worth. You want to make sure those are protected. If you are renting, renting, the way insurance companies look at renting, it's fine as long as you have a lease and as long as it's annual. If you're doing Airbnb, if you're doing where people can come and go or don't have leases, that might be a problem. Airbnb, you're gonna probably have to get some specialized type of insurance for that, because you got different people coming and going. Okay, so that presents a different type of risk. So, but if you have a lease, you need to make sure that you, what's that? Okay, make sure I get that question, last one.
I will. I will.
Okay. But if you have a lease, that's the least amount of liability for apartments and rentals. But I will tell you this, and this is, apartments are not cheap to insure. So when you're looking at that, if your property owner is, and I have people shopping around all the time, and they can't believe what the premiums are on properties. It's expensive. There's a lot of loss. Insurance companies base their premiums on loss ratios, not on whether it's on the south side, on the north side, has nothing to do with it. They look at the totality of the risk, and they look at the liability, the loss ratios. Loss ratios for every amount that you pay out in premium, whatever is paid out in losses. And by far this year is probably going to be the worst year of losses for all insurance companies, based on the pandemic, based on the fires, based on the hurricanes, tornadoes, everything. This is going to be a horrible year for insurance. So look for you all's premiums to go up next year, for sure. Loss ratios for every dollar in, whatever goes out. And a dollar in, dollar out is a good year for an insurance company. But if an insurance company is paying $2 or $3 for every dollar that you pay in premium, that is a big factor why your premiums go up. Is no way, if you're selling widgets for $2 and you're buying them for 50 cents, and when they go up to $1, you're going to be able to get the same kind of profit margin when you can continue to sell them at $2. You just can't. You have to go up on your price, just like the manufacturer or the wholesale, wherever you're getting the product from. They have to go up on their prices too, as the demand becomes higher, or as the lack of availability for that particular type of widget becomes harder to manufacture. Those things impact the bottom line. So
we've got a question from Agile Pest Experts. He asks, would you
pest?
say have,
You said pest, P-E-S-T?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So would you say having a general liability for a pest control company out of all the insurance products? I think he's asking, is general liability the best policy that you can have for a pest control company? And then he asks, why do insurers ask about the gross sales to determine pricing coverage?
Because that's for in order for us to determine a premium or what to charge you, it's based on whatever your sales are or payroll. Depends on the type of business. There's no other way to figure out a premium. So if you got someone who's only doing 25,000 in sales and another business is doing 50,000 or 100,000 in sales, should their premiums be the same? So the gross sales determines what the premium should be. Or if you have a pest control business or whatever type of business doing 5 million in sales versus someone that's doing 25,000 in sales, should their premiums be the same? No. So they look at the gross sales to see what type of activity and what type of income is coming for the business, and that's what determines the premium. That's one of the things that determine the premium. The other thing that determines the premium too also is the type of business, the risk, the type of exposure. Pest is that's one of those specialty markets too. You just can't get like insurance from any company. It has to be a specialty type of company that provides insurance for that particular, sorry, my battery's running low, that particular type of business. So they're gonna ask you what your gross sales are. Even, I will tell you this, don't overestimate. Don't think, okay, I'm gonna do 100,000 this year. I'm gonna do 200,000 for 200,000. Now the good news about that, if you decide to do something kooky like that, is every year businesses have something called, we do an audit. We do an audit on all our businesses. And what happens in the audit is that they determine whether or not you were overcharged or whether you were undercharged. Audit is a self-disclosed type of thing. Now, at least for country, I know, we don't necessarily ask for specific documentation unless you need something to support what you're stating. But we'll ask, it's a self-reporting audit. So if you put on the audit that you made $100,000 and we only charge you premium for $25,000 in gross sales, then you're going to pay the difference for the 75. And the same is reverse. If you estimated 100, but you only made 25, then we're going to credit you for the premium that we charged you for the 100,000. So.
This is Al.
Go ahead, Al.
Is it better to underestimate or overestimate? Because I mean, if you underestimate and then you get hit with some have to use the policy, then you don't have coverage, and it seems like you're just left out there.
It looks like you.
I have no idea what happened.
Okay.
It looks like my Wi-Fi went out, you guys.
Okay, not a problem.
Okay.
We have some technical difficulties too, so you're good.
Okay, so I was answering Al's question. I was just saying that, I would rather be as close to what my projected numbers were versus not, projecting or projecting them lower or stating them lower. Because I would rather not have to pay a higher amount or pay the difference at the end. So the answer to your question is, I wouldn't underestimate. I would try to be as close to that number as possible, what my expectations were. So, but again, this is a self-report, so it's up to you how honest you are. I'm not saying be dishonest, but it is most of the audits are self-report. But again, I don't know about my competitors. I don't know if they're requiring documentation or not to support that. I don't know. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, if you have equipment, make sure that you're covering that, or inventory, make sure that you're covering that. If the looting has taught us anything, especially from an insurance perspective, is you just make sure you're covering your inventory. What my experience with a lot of people is that they're trying to keep everything expenses low and everything, but it's just like your house. To me, if protecting, the castle is the most important part, the last thing I want to do is go out and try to buy some cheap insurance. I don't understand that. To me, that's like an oxymoron. Like, you got an expensive house and got cheap insurance. It just doesn't make any sense to me. You don't buy the cheapest peanut butter. I don't. I reach for a moderate price, brand name that I recognize, and then hopefully it doesn't have that polysaturated, whatever fat stuff in it. Just as long as it doesn't have that. But I'm not reaching for the cheapest peanut butter to put in my castle, which is my body, my host. I'm not doing that. And I think all too often we do that. We look at insurance as just a price. We don't look at it, wholly and comprehensively over what it can do and what could happen. And that's why a lot of people are in trouble. I got a cell phone guy, right? He haggled me to death on his insurance. And I'm like, you got about, almost $100,000 worth of cell phones, and you only want $20,000 because he didn't want to pay the higher premium. I will pay the higher premium to protect my product, because who knows, especially in the times that we are in right now, you have no idea what could happen. I love my landlady here in my office. She's taken every precaution to make sure that we don't have to go through what we went through back on, what was that, June 1st or whatever day that was. When, I was in tears, and if you're a Facebook friend of mine, you saw me crying, because I was worried that all my hard work was going to be gone. Now I'm insured. But I was, you know, the fact that somebody comes in and destroys your personal property or your business property, everything that you worked hard for, remember that when you're considering your insurance. If you don't have a brick and mortar like me, even if you got your name out there, anything associated with your brand, your marketing, and somebody sues you, all it takes is just one bad thing about you, and it can destroy everything that you've built. Insurance. I talked about property insurance. If you're renting, can you all hear me? It says my internet is unstable. If you are renting a property that you're going to have your business in, you need to make sure that you have that you cover things like glass, and you cover glass, and you cover the interior of the building that you're going to be using. So your landlord or the person who owns the building is going to want to make sure that the property is restored back to where it was before you occupied it. But you're going to want to make sure that it is back to where it was when you occupied it. So for me, I spent a whole year redecorating my office and putting it together. I want to make sure I'm covered for everything, as so should you. But I know that most people are not probably having a brick and mortar, and I know I talk about that a lot. But if you all have a specific business that you're interested, or you have some questions about, ask me about it, and hopefully I can give you an answer. Because we got about, I would say we got about 10 minutes, right?
Yep. We're right up against it, actually closer to 5, unless you guys wanted to keep going. So now's the time to ask Ms. Shaw any questions. If you want to type them in, we can relay them to her, or you can unmute and speak to her directly.
I'm trying to remember if I missed anything specifically, but I think if I could offer you some really good advice, is to just sit down with, and first of all, find somebody that's knowledgeable. Everybody who sells insurance is not knowledgeable about business insurance. You have some people that sell homeowners insurance, auto insurance, whatever. They may say, I sell business insurance. You generally can find out whether someone is knowledgeable about something in just a few minutes of a conversation with them. Ask some of the questions that you've been asking me, you know, some more complex questions specifically about your business. And here's the other thing. Every insurance agent, even in business, they may not have a specialty in your business. So one of the things I did when I first started was I wanted to learn about those businesses that I knew that I would come in contact with the most. And the ones I come in contact with the most are contractors, realtors, other professional businesses like, you know, dentists, doctors, people who have product. So I, made it a point to learn and understand their different types of businesses. So like when my client came to me yesterday about the Lamborghini or whatever, I'm like, I don't know. Let me do some research on that. And it's okay if they say that. But if you got a person that thinks that they know everything and they're jack of all trades, be careful with that. Also, there's different types of insurance agents too. There is brokers, and then there are captive agents. Your captive agents are your State Farms, your Country, like me, Allstate, Liberty Mutual. The captive means that we represent one particular company. Doesn't mean we can't get your insurance for, somewhere else. It just means that first and foremost, we're looking to insure you with State Farms or Allstates and all that stuff. Brokers don't represent a company. They are their own company, and they get insurance through multiple different, they'll shop different places for your insurance. There's advantages to that, but there's also advantages to a captive agent. I would suggest getting quotes from both of them for your business. But it's really about the agent and the knowledge of the agent. And some companies don't want to touch apartment buildings, so if you want to be a professional landlord, you may have to shop with certain other companies. Every insurance company doesn't want to work with landlords. Every insurance company doesn't want to work with pest control. You're not going to be able to get insurance like in a second for a daycare or something like that. That's another thing I want to say before I go. Don't be expecting to get insurance in one day. Some insurance you can, like I can insure a realtor, in some professions, even a carpenter, in 20 minutes, less than 20 minutes. But some businesses require research and time. And And I'm saying that to you because I get a lot of pressure a lot from people looking for business insurance. And that's usually because y'all waited till the last minute to get it. Okay, so I'm not gonna let you put me under any pressure, especially when you need to get as much information as you can about why I need this particular type of insurance. And shopping for insurance is not shopping for an outfit that night or a suit that night. It's about protecting your business in the long term. And that's not something you can do just like that.
Absolutely. And Gwen, I have a couple of questions. I know we're wrapping up. The first question is, what else determines the premium other than payroll and sales? That's one question, so I'll let you answer that one.
Right. Again, it is the type of business that you have will determine the premium too. And I told you loss ratios or that if, again, understand insurance is a spreading of risk. And your business, what you choose is looked at it specifically for the type of risk that could come upon that business. If you're dealing with children, that is a high risk. I already know that. If you're transporting people, especially children, that is a high risk. I already know that. If you're dealing with personal property in terms of you have to go in and do something to that, that is another set of risks. So we base it on the types of risks that particular business presents and could potentially be some type of loss because of that type of business. And they look at that. Some businesses also get price breaks based on the fact they don't file a lot of claims. Like some great businesses out there, like if you have a condo association, if you are a realtor, if you are an educator, anybody that does public speaking, of course, there's not a whole lot of risk involved with that. So there are also target businesses that insurance companies look at and want to insure. They want to insure a bakery. They want to insure a restaurant. They want to insure, a florist because they don't present a whole lot of risk. So it's based on the type of business. It's based on the loss ratios. I forgot one important thing. It's also based on your credit, you guys. So two things, and I got to make this point before I go. It's based on your credit. So if you have poor credit, they look at that. They look at and see that. And I'm not saying you can't get insurance. You just may not be able to get insurance from company A. You may have to go to company B to get your insurance. If you can't, some of them have requirements, especially if you're a brand new business. If you're a startup, they may look at whether or not you can do home and auto with them. They may ask you to come in and do more products with them because you're a startup. Yes, really. Insurance, to answer Alicia's question about credit, yes. Credit affects all forms of insurance except for life insurance, unless you are in bankruptcy. And that's another conversation somewhere else. But yeah, your credit affects all types of insurance. It's not going to affect your rate. It's going to affect your eligibility for business insurance, okay? On home and auto, it affects your rate, but for commercial, it affects your eligibility first. And you may have to get some type of subprime sort of kind of insurance based on that, but you can get insurance. And I recommend Hiscox. Hiscox is great for a lot of insurance companies, a lot of different businesses. It may not fit everyone's business, but they're great and it's easy to get the insurance. So I think I forgot the last thing I was going to say.
The last question was, I don't know if you have time, but somebody asked about compare exclusion and endorsements to choose the best coverage. And is there a resource that provides a list of what companies that what covers?
Exclusions and endorsements?
Yeah, what is the best way to compare exclusion and endorsements to choose the best coverage and insure?
A lot of the companies, especially commercial companies, carry pretty much the same exclusions. For instance, a lot of people were SOL because they thought that the pandemic was covered in commercial policies. Some of that stuff is broad across the board, certain types of exclusions. I don't think there's any way to particularly compare that. I think that's more so, again, speaking to a really, educated insurance agent, but certain exclusions are is industry-wide. And a lot of them also carry similar types of endorsements, but some carry, more comprehensive types of endorsements, or it just varies. There's no way to compare that. And that's the best way I can answer that question. There's no way to compare State Farm and Country and Allstate based on exclusions and endorsements.
Okay.
I mean,
Well, thank
nothing.
you so much. You've done an excellent job. We're gonna definitely have to have you back to hopefully cover this with another cohort.
Okay.
We give you 2 thumbs up and we really appreciate you. And she did this on a short notice, everyone. She's amazing. We really appreciate her so much.
Well, I hope it was helpful to all of you. And I will just tell you, make sure that you sit down and talk to a professional, okay? And I can't stress that. Don't do it. I mean, you can do it over the phone, but do your research about your business. Do your research about the insurances needed for your business. But sit down face to face, virtually with that person, okay? And that's everything that you need to know. And I appreciate all of you, and I wish you well with your business too. Being a business owner is great. I love it.
Well, we're gonna please, I'm gonna share your information with everyone. So everyone, you're gonna get Gwen's information. So please reach out to her. It sounds like some people are having a hard time getting insurance. So hopefully Gwen can work her magic and help you all out. So
Just see you.
thanks. Bye.